Killer Mike answers the age-old question, can you teach the masses through sexing up the classes? Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What is up, guys? We are back for another episode of Trigger Warning with Killer Mike, episode 2, F School. I'm your girl, Drew Jones, and I'm here with my lovely panel. Introduce yourself, ladies.
What's up? I'm TK Trinidad.
Hey everyone, I'm AJ.
And you guys, tonight we have a segment. It is called Trigger Facts, where, you know, we're just going to get a little more factual with this episode. Tonight's episode was interesting. It is not, when I read the title of the episode, this is not what I was thinking it was, you know, necessarily about. But what were your all's initial thoughts of the episode?
I think he was very creative. It was a very creative episode. Creative.
It was great. I actually, because I rewatched it, and it was just like, it was a great starting point, but you can almost make this into a series as far as discussion, as far as, you know, trade schools versus universities versus, you know, elementary schools versus, you know, the funding and private schools and all this other stuff. So it was a good starting point, but this one felt like there could have been more, but maybe because there was so much to cover, they just kind of just did a little bit, just tapped it a little bit.
Yeah. So we open up the episode, and he is in a room full of, it looks like about 6-7-year-old kids.
Probably 5, 6, yeah.
Yeah, very young, and he asks them what they want to do when they grow up, and obviously, just like kids do, they are dreaming big. We got a president. We have a scientist who wants to create a potion that makes his family superheroes. We have
rockets.
And rockets. We have, you know, big dreams, and Killer Mike does not have time for big dreams. What did you guys think of his little pep talk with the kiddos?
I agree with it just because I was a teacher for 8 years. I taught 3 years in
Thank you for your service.
5 years in high school, and it's true, because you talk to these kids, they have no clue of the real world. I talked to a high school student. They don't know anything about college. This one boy said he was going to college for basketball, just basketball. I said, no, baby, you have to major in something. He's like, no, I'm just going for basketball. I'm like, oh no, honey, you cannot go for basketball, and that's the issue, because they go with these high hopes. I'm gonna go play sports, and then they flunk out because they don't know how to do the work. So yeah, it's an issue. You need to be realistic.
Well, it's realistic, and it's also, this is where I think economics and classism and all that stuff come to be, because it's just like, when I was a kid, I wanted to be like a music producer. That's what I wanted to be, and obviously I gave up that dream. But it's like, if I had the opportunity, or if my family knew a music producer and they introduced me to that, then I think that would have been my pathway, because I am still like that type of technician. However, I didn't have the opportunity to do that, and I ended up doing something else, obviously. So I feel like if that were the case, then if your kid wants to do this, then you might want to actively seek out that person if they're truly passionate about it, but then also educating the kid on other jobs. Like the fact that that kid wanted to play basketball, my whole thing is people don't realize all the other jobs beyond, you know, being an agent, being all those other jobs behind the scenes that the people who are, you know, usually singing and dancing don't know about. And we don't introduce them to those jobs that pay just as much sometimes.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have a dream, but I just feel like you need to have something to fall back on. Don't base everything on your dream or your talent. Have it, but I just feel like you need something to fall back on as well, because you just never know. You can go play a sport, you might get injured. What you gonna do after that? Oh, you want to be a singer, something may happen to your vocal or your voice. What you gonna do after that? I just feel like you need to always have a backup plan. Have a dream, but then be practical as well, both.
Yeah, I think it's important to definitely encourage, you know, dreaming big and wanting big things for yourself. But I did agree with him that there needs to be practical trades taught in school. I grew up with a single mother, so I had to learn how to budget and how to, you know, pay bills and how to do my taxes really early on. But a lot of my friends didn't learn how to do that, and I think that's so important. We should have that in high schools. We should have, you know, a class where you learn how to do taxes, you learn how to budget, you learn how to even do something as simple as laundry, because I just feel like people don't, a lot of people don't know how to do that.
Some people don't use a microwave.
which is
Which is crazy. It sounds crazy, but
which
you'll
is
be surprised.
Yeah.
That is sad.
And then even the trade, even if it's something that you might not be able to sell, it's something that you can do on your own. Like my dad, he was a tailor, so like I know how to sew, and it's just like I know people like just they don't have that like additional skill, like just in case stuff pops up or you can't afford to like get this fixed, but you need to sew it up real quick. It's just like there's not that in the schools anymore, but then it comes to, is it the school's issue or is this the parents' issue or is this a government issue? Like it's a lot of things that are that come into play for that.
I think even like economically, it would make sense to have certain things like teaching taxes or teaching practical things
How
like
do you know
that
that in
the
Jewish
school.
schools they do that?
In
They
Jewish
do
schools?
they do real estate too.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that would make sense.
in my inner city school, we were
didn't
not
have all
getting that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
an economic thing because you know you're paying into that system, and then that's where it comes to play. Like, is it the government? Because now you have kids they're switching up the textbooks. They might not even be getting textbooks. You don't know what type of computers they're getting. There's like a disadvantage. So it's just who's fault is it or who needs to take into play for that. So
I feel it's
daunting.
It's a government issue just because in school we really have you have no control over anything. The government is really telling you everything you have to do, and it's so many teachers and educators and principals that want to do so much, but they really can't.
we just came off a teacher strike 2 weeks ago.
So it's the government, and the problem is that nobody in the government is educators. So you don't do my job. So how are you telling me exactly what to do? You're just telling me what you think I should be doing, but you're not in the classroom. You're not in there. You don't know. So it's just like people telling you what to do, and they don't know what they're talking about.
And then you dive into the whole teachers aren't, because we just had a teacher strike, teachers aren't getting paid anything.
And they're packing in the classes like 40 per student.
And these are
per
the
classroom.
people who are practically raising the next generation. And so then you get all of these students who don't know how to do anything because you end up having teachers who aren't passionate because they can barely. I have so many friends who are teaching and they're like buying supplies for their classroom and like out of their own paycheck, and already they're not making anything. So it's like it's hard to want to invest in these kids and want to really teach and really show them something because
your hands are tied.
yeah, your hands are tied, you're broke, like you're miserable.
And now you have to deal with all these personalities. There's, more students in the classroom. So now you have students who might want to learn. You might have students who want to learn, but they can't connect it.
Yeah.
And you don't have the time to spend like actually teaching them, and you're just trying to pass them through. And then Lord forbid, or maybe they have a skill sports wise. And then there are people when I went to Oregon, who were student athletes and they couldn't read. And this was college.
Yeah.
The valedictorian in one of the schools I worked in, high school, reading level was on 3rd grade.
Which is
No, I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
It's sad.
insane. So he decides to because he meets with a elementary school principal.
She's like, yeah,
and he tries to kind of implement his new way to her, and she's like, not with my kids, like we're not doing that. So he decides to go take adults and tries to like implement the same thing, and realizes that these adults don't know anything either.
But is it like the practical way of obviously these kids have dreams, right? But these are the things that are presented to them. But you have, I don't know if you watched oh my gosh, the Crazy Rich Asians, where the mom was talking to the girlfriend who was from America, and she's like, oh, you Americans, like, you just go by feelings, whereas, we go based off of, these are the facts. This is what you're good at, so therefore you should do this, as a career. And a lot of, I'm not playing to stereotypes. I've watched I have Asian friends, and I've also seen this in like comedy shows. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of folks who are from Asian descent where their parents like, okay, well, this is what you're gonna do, and then once you achieve this, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
But like, you're now a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer, or you're this or you're that, and you can do that. The same thing from the girl from Insecure. I think Molly, her parents, she has 2 master's degrees, and that's after she did all of that. That's when she went and became a stand-up comedian. So it's just kind of one of those things where, maybe we should definitely give kids more of options versus the few things that we do see as kids.
Yeah. I definitely think there needs to be a where we teach trade and we teach basic things, but then because most schools have counselors, from what I like,
who knows,
they
now.
should at least, where it's like, cool, these traits, you have X, Y, and Z, you're good at this is how you can incorporate it into your passion. Because I think, especially like in this current time, it's very easy to get quote unquote successful on the internet or, you know, SoundCloud or like whatever. And so no one has this work ethic of like, everyone just wants to be like famous or like well known.
That's still like the folks who make it and make the transition to something else, like a King Batch, for instance, that's a skill.
Exactly.
Like, you know, I think the persistence of some folks who are like they were consistent on SoundCloud, dropping music, doing this on Instagram, all this other, that's a skill. And so a lot of people look at that and like, oh well, I need to do this once or twice. Like, nah, they've been hustling for a while.
Yeah, it's a consistent thing, and because they have some sort of trade or because they know what they're good at, they're able to take that and redirect it into their passion. And I think that's what needs to be taught in schools. You don't have to give up on your dream, but you have to know, you know, you have to know what tools you have in order to achieve that dream. Like,
and if not, just research it.
Yeah, like we can't all be, you know, Jimmy Fallon's or whatever, but because a lot of us, especially AfterBuzz, like we want to work in TV, but for some of us, it's being heads of writers' rooms or, you know, being EPs or whatever, and it's still very much in that industry, but it's not necessarily the Jimmy Fallon. You know what I'm saying? Like you can still do it, but there's practical ways to still like achieve your dream. So this class of adults, they do very poorly.
Well, could we take it back to the fact with those adults, all the black men said they wanted to be in music?
Yeah.
That was like, that's just heartbreaking. Like it's just that it just speaks to the fact that it's like you still want to be rappers and athletes, and there's so much more to that. Like, I mean, how many of you guys, because are you single?
Yes.
How many of you guys have you met where you meet the guy's like, yeah, I'm in music, but the dude's, you know, way past music starting level.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's just like,
Still working on the mixtape.
yeah, it's just
how
like,
long?
nah.
How long are you working on this mixtape?
I got an architect, honey, so not worried about it. But no, I know what you mean. I think it's because, in all honesty, it kind of plays into the last episode. We don't get to see that many black owned businesses. We don't get to really see, like, I mean, obviously there's black doctors and black lawyers and all that, but those things aren't really like super celebrated and they're not hyped up, and it's hard to do those things. And I think, and that we can't hold on to a dollar, so I think we're used to trying to find the quick buck, and like rap music is the quick buck.
I was just going to say that they want the easy way out, because, you know, they want something that they think they can get easy, but it's not that easy, because once in school, I feel like the kids, they don't know how to work for stuff. And I'm telling you just because I know. You can not do a lot and go to the next grade, you know? So it's, you know, just teaching it. It's like I said, and teachers' hands are tied. It's so much that we can do. We're just getting told what to do. So the kids really, they don't have a work ethic. You can be failing all quarter, and then 2 weeks before grades are coming out, you're allowed to turn in all your missing work and get a passing grade. It's like they don't have a work ethic. They don't teach them consistency. They let them slide by. So like I said, this is a bigger issue than just trying to get creative in the classroom.
Because even the people that you look up to, like the Kevin Harts or the athletes or whatever, like, they didn't just come out the womb and all of a sudden they're athletes. Like they also put in the work. So for the guy, especially the guy in the back row, he looked kind of older. From like, yeah, I want to dabble in music too. Like, dude, you don't just dabble in music.
Right.
Like that's
They
not
think it's easy.
That's not a thing.
And it's not to say that there's an age restriction, because, for instance, Viola Davis didn't really start popping until a couple years ago. But
however, she's been working.
I was gonna say, but she's been doing it for decades.
Yeah.
It's not about, like, you have to really invest and, you know, work on, and it's not just about like constantly putting out material. It's also like working on your craft and, you know, finding out ways to how you can grow as a, you know,
and networking, which is a whole another skill.
And I seen this thing on Instagram earlier. It said if you have a dream, make sure you put a date on your dream because so it could become a goal. Because if you keep saying, "Oh, this is my dream, I want to do this," okay, well, how long? Like it's gonna stay a dream, but until you put a date on it and write it down, then that when it becomes a goal.
Well, I mean, that's how you know if you want it bad enough. Like again, it just plays to, well, you wanna dabble in music, or you wanna be a writer, or you wanna do this. It's like, well, what are you doing to do that? Or like people come up to me, it's like, oh, well, like I want to become a host. I'm like, all right, like cool, like what have you been like doing? Because you have the tools. Like it's so much easier now. You have Instagram. You have this. Like there are people that have gotten jobs through Instagram. A friend of mine, he does like posts consistently. He's a comedian. He got a job. He got an audition for the Daily Show through Instagram. So it's just like if they're coming to me and like, oh yeah, I want to be a host, and like, so what are you doing? Well, like you know,
like where's your content?
Like what do you, you know what I'm saying? Or like I'm gonna do, like you don't have a game plan, then you really don't want it. And I think that's the thing too. And then it also plays into the whole schooling stuff. If you're getting into a school where the teachers' hands are tied and it's at capacity and they can only do so much, and now you get to the end of high school and you can barely get into college, or you get into college is a whole nother show in itself, and then you're left with pretty much nothing because you've spent your school years just bouncing from classroom to classroom. Because it does take that one teacher whose hands are not tied, or you're in a good situation where they kind of push you along. Like, and in Canada, it's a lot different as far as education, but like I had several teachers who like kept me, saw the work ethic I had, and then continued inspiring it. And then like certain things that I do now is because of those teachers from 6th, 7th, 8th grade. So it's just one of those things where, you know, if you don't have the opportunity, like, do they fit? Like, it's just, it's so, there's so much stuff going on.
There's many, many layers to it. So we meet Tobin and we meet Robin. Robin is a sex therapist, and Tobin is a guy who
electrician. He builds stuff.
He builds stuff. And by the power of them both, we have decided we are going to make educational videos using sex. And kind of helping that out is Gemma, who is a webcam girl, and she basically is like, people will do whatever I want in the name of like sexual intimacy
and pay for it.
What was your all's thoughts on this route? Like, does sex truly sell to the point where you can learn something from it?
I think we may have to and May, you could speak to this more. We may have to find more creative ways in teaching, given the fact that our attention span is getting shorter and shorter every decade.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe it's not reading a book. Maybe it's finding a more interactive way. Or I don't know. But it just seems like we have to progress as far as learning, because everybody can't do it by, we're going to read this textbook and we're going to take a test, because there's so many more issues going on beyond that. So I think sex does sell, and it definitely would work for people who've gotten to the point where those opportunities are no longer there. But, you know, as far as, you know, elementary school kids, probably not.
I feel like I feel both ways. I feel like you need to be creative in education. However, I feel like you are giving kids a false sense of what it's like if they plan on going to college or any type of higher education. Because when you go to college, your professor is not about to, okay, let's play an activity, guys. All right, it's game. They're not doing that. You're going to sit there and take notes, and you know, so that's what you do in college. So that was the issue in teaching high school. It's like, we want you guys to, have fun with the lesson and get creative. However, you also need to know that don't think that when you go to a higher education that it's going to be like that. You're going to have to sit there, and it's hard because kids can't even take a standardized test for a long time because they can't sit.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, don't you feel like, at least in my opinion, I feel like universities should kind of help out more in helping people understand and learn, because of the amount of money you're investing into these programs.
Well,
if I'm paying $40,000 a semester, I better be getting the education, like a $40,000 education. If I just come in somewhere and I'm just sitting there and having someone, ramble.
What was your major?
My major was communication with a minor in African American study.
And what was your major?
Math.
So I feel like a lot of people just go to school for school. So for me, I got a 4-year 4-year scholarship, and first my major was English, then I wanted to do a major in economics, and my counselor told me like student athletes have to do like communications or business, because that's
Which is why I did communication.
this is what they do in order to do the curriculum. So I honestly, it feels like a lot of people that I know that I went to school with, aside from maybe one, they're not even doing anything remotely close to what they did, what they studied in school. And I also felt like the first 2 years, even though I think they're claiming like you're supposed to be finding yourself, it's like I feel like you could have found yourself somewhere.
You wasting your money by doing that.
So it just kind of felt like with 4-year universities here, it seems like, are you really going for a career, or are you going just because this is the next pathway to go?
I think there's a lot of things that go into it, because there is this pressure to get college done, because you don't want to spend too much time there, because you're investing all this money, and it's like, I don't want to keep spending money every semester, so let me figure out what my major is going to be. And then you're 2, 3, 4, 5 semesters in, and you're like, I hate this major, and then it's like, I have to finish it, or I'm going to have to start all over again, because sometimes credits don't transfer to another major. Then there's that whole situation.
They really, in high school, they really need to redo the high school format, because I just feel like you said, when you go to college, some people just go just because their parents told them to go. Like, it's the thing
pathway
to do. It's like, okay, after high school, go to college. Like you said, I know a lot of people that went to school and they changed their major after 2 years. So you're telling me you was enrolled in school for 2 years, wasting all of their money to change. Why did you do that? Some people even went to school and didn't even want that major. Or they went to school and, like you said, they're not doing anything. And what they went, because one, they can't even find a job. Because I think when I went to Virginia State University, everybody was communications or criminal justice. That was like the whole campus. And they did it just because it's an easy major. They cannot find jobs. And half of them doing something different because they can't.
I was going to say, I personally dropped out of college because my job was doing exactly what I wanted to do. So I was like, why am I here when I'm getting actual life experience? And like, even now I have assistants and like people who work under me who have 4-year or grad school, educations. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Did you learn anything when you're, and I'm not saying college is bad. Like, for some careers, college is a necessity, but I agree with you. I feel like some people just go to college for the sake of going to college.
Yeah, I think that's. I don't think we're gonna take a big look at that, because that's how colleges do make their money. But like the system on a whole is just kind of like, okay, we're just funneling kids from something to something to something, and then they come out of college, they're in a ridiculous amount of debt, they can't find jobs, and then the fact that the people who are in their 30s and 40s can't find jobs, and they're working at jobs that the kids who are coming out of college are supposed to be working those jobs. Now everybody's fighting for the same kind of minimum wage type jobs, and you're nowhere close to your field. When if you kind of go all the way back to like the kids who wanted to be rocket science and all this other stuff, if you presented other jobs to them as other options, like if you knew that this certain job existed, then you might have actually went to that particular job, but you didn't know existed. So how are you gonna,
Yeah, they just need to expose the kids to more.
Yeah, because then what happens is you have these kids who are in college for all 4 years and end up going into another field that wasn't even close to their major. And then most jobs must have 3-4 years of experience. And it's like, you spent 4 years doing a degree that has nothing to do with the job, and now you have to go find a starter job to get into that field when you could have been getting that starter job 4 years ago. It's just like, it is insane.
It is absolutely crazy, but what is not crazy? Before we move on to our next topic, we just wanted to say thank you for making us the ESPN of TV Talk. For us to continue to grow, we could use your help. If you are on YouTube right now, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And if you're on iTunes, please give us 5 stars, nothing less. But no matter where you are, leave us a comment so we can get involved with your conversation. Being a part of AfterBuzz TV has meant so much to all of us. We truly appreciate you supporting us in doing what we love. Don't forget to tell your friends and keep enjoying our shows.
Yes. Thank you guys for checking us out. So they decided to make these like educational pornos, And we don't discriminate, so we have something for
Everybody.
we got something for everybody.
Everybody.
And they show these films to the same adult class from earlier in the episode, and come to find out, they perform drastically, like way better than they did the
They
first
was paying
hand.
attention, honey.
And I personally don't think it's necessarily because of the porn, but I mean, obviously, like it was.
Well, you stay up.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was an aha moment.
Well, yeah, stay up. Well, I mean, I love documentaries. I love when people infuse education into like stand-up comedies, stuff like that. And I often learn more from that depending on how it's presented. Like Michael Moore just came out with a documentary, which is great. Learned a whole bunch of stuff about President Obama that I had no idea about. So it's just one of those things where the shock value kept you up versus like, oh, we're gonna just do that. Like,
Exactly.
Right.
So it's just how they presented it.
Exactly, having enthusiasm and having Comedy Central has a show called Drunk History, and it's one of my favorite shows because I'm a huge history freak. But I love that it's funny and enjoyable, but it is historical facts,
Yep.
and it's like in an interesting way, and it's a very creative way of teaching people about history by using comedians who are
Yeah.
getting like wasted.
Yeah, drunk.
But I don't think it's a lot to ask for creativity in the classroom. I think like instead of worrying about how to stump the creativity that these kids have for such big dreams, why don't you push that creativity into the subjects that you're teaching?
Well, they're not putting
So-
money in general. They're
Exactly.
paying their teachers.
You can, so like, I was teaching math because I'm a math teacher. I was a math teacher. So basically, I have to be creative because, math, nobody really likes math. So I would do that, but I know the issue with it is that a lot of you don't have time to do it in the curriculum because the curriculum, you have a pacing chart. Like, they tell you how many days you need to spend on something. You need to be done by this day. They're going to take a standardized test. Like, it's a lot that go into it, and you have to stay on a schedule. It's really like a calendar. And I know that's the issue, with teachers that we, like I said, our hands are tied. Like, we want to do so much, and if we can, we try to, but for the most part, if you got to stay on the pace, you have to like.
And if that one student's lagging behind, then
Yeah. There's
well.
honestly just so many different potholes in the education
Yeah.
system. It's like I don't even know where to start fixing it because it's like the second you plug up one hole, like four more sprout out.
It's an issue.
We actually have a new segment we wanted to head into, and it's called Trigger Facts. Every week, depending on the subject, we will break down some statistics, articles, tweets, just some more information to help back up the subject. So if you are following the show along with us and you want to send us in any type of articles or statistics that you find interesting, please do. But AJ's going to take it away this week.
Yes. So the first fact that we're going to talk about, does education kill creativity? So in the article that I read, everyone agreed that it is necessary to include creativity, teamwork, innovation, and storytelling all in education. However, there were 4 issues that would make it very difficult for us to incorporate that. And one of the issues were there are too many outdated models to incorporate creativity, because in education, they do give you a model to go by, and it's not much that you can put much input that you can put into it. So it's a lot of outdated models. So that was one issue that they had. The second issue is the people who invested in the current education models, they protect their status quo and are forcing the schools to buy the models. So we don't really know if it's working, because I know they have companies come there and tell the school district, like, you need to get this. So it's looking like, oh, everybody's buying it, it's good on paper, but is it really? Probably not. So that's the second issue. The third one is that the education system doesn't really support the evaluation system doesn't really support creativity and innovation, because they do evaluate you, and those evaluations are very serious. Your job is tied to them, your pay is tied to them. It's a lot of stuff that's tied to the evaluation system. So if my paycheck is tied to something and creativity and innovation is not on there, then I'm not going to spend my time. Most people don't spend their time on that because they're trying to get their points for the other stuff that they're getting graded on. And then the last issue was that there is a disconnect between an external image and an internal culture. So basically, schools like to put on a good front. They have this image, but is that really what's going on inside of the culture or the school? So it's a disconnect from that. So you just never really know because everybody likes to look good on paper. So, you know, it's just a lot. But can it change? Can education change? It can change. Will it take time? Yes, but it can, just with time and patience and
I don't know. You have more faith than I do. I just
one
feel,
of these days, I don't know.
I just feel based off of the way American societies is set up. Like, yeah, ideally, yeah, it's, you know, people want it to change, but it doesn't benefit the people who are gaining the money for it to change.
That's true.
So it just feels, and this is with everything. If you go to healthcare, if you go to, you know, I just saw the Patriarch on Netflix where they're talking about, it wasn't Ritalin, it was insulin, where, you know, in Canada it costs $13 to get a shot of insulin, and here it's $195. So it's just like, the system in general doesn't seem like it's set up for people who are starting behind the starting line to get somewhere else, unless you have that family member, or that you luck out and have that one teacher, or you luck out and get that one opportunity, or you luck out where you have that genetic code in you where it's like no matter what the odds are, you're going to get that. So you might be the 1 in 100 where, you know, that person becomes a doctor. But then what about everybody else? So like, I hope for it, but given my, and I might be completely wrong, but given my years here and observing stuff, it doesn't seem like it would benefit the people who already have the money.
I agree. Did you guys have any final thoughts on the episode?
It is depressing.
It was real. Like it's something. It wasn't like it's what's happening in the education system. It's what's happening. It was, but I like how he did bring awareness to that. We do need to try to incorporate creativity into the classroom if you want kids to pay attention and learn. So besides this, not the sex or the porn, but we do need to be creative in the class. Yeah. So yeah.
I do. Oh, go ahead.
I think beyond that too, just the adult thing. I hope that people who are adults in that position where, you know, maybe they're looking for something that fits them, and it's not, you know, whatever job they're doing now, they see it and they're like, there's other opportunities, and maybe they can actually do a little bit more research into things that they might not have considered, but they can get absolutely, you know, financial fulfillment and also personal fulfillment from it, versus chasing, you know, the dream that everybody else is chasing.
Have a backup plan.
Yeah.
I agree.
Backup plan at least.
Well, you guys, I think that is about covering everything from this episode. We will be back next week for another one. Until next time, I'm your girl, Drew Jones. You can follow me on all of the things at OKDrewJ.
And you can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad.
And you can follow me on Instagram at Crimson Pearl.
And don't forget to follow AfterBuzz TV on all social media platforms. Until next time, we'll see you all soon.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.